we despise Obamacare, how much money can we make off of running it?
Right, I agree with you.
It's appalling. No one really stands for anything anymore, which is why I personally support third parties. I'm a libertarian. Card-carrying, LPRI, big L, little l, whatever you want to call it, because parties have become irrelevant. That's almost cliche to discuss at this point. But both major parties, tell me if you would agree or disagree, in the last 8 to 12 years after the result of some pretty brutal election results, actually have had to step away and publicly, this is what's astonishing, publicly focus on what their goals and theories are. I
don't even know if they've focused on goals or theories. I think that they're just wandering aimlessly for the most part. I don't think the major parties have any clue as to what they represent other than the people that fund them. I think that they're funded by special interests. I really don't believe that the average citizen is overly involved in politics. I think they're disengaged because they see no hope for themselves in terms of accessing or in any way directing the system, and that's where we've run amok. We need people to participate in their own governance. We, as a I wouldn't say fellow libertarian, but I run along that line, and I run with the libertarian thought quite a bit. And given that, I mean, people have to be responsible for their own actions. Government has to be just there for the purposes that we've ascribed to it, not this overall mother state or father state. Or what we have to do is we have to look at what our policies are, and right now, I think the divisive politics of Republican Democrat is really at the heart of the problem, because it moves people away from the system. They just don't want to play the game. Who cares? It's like the Republicans win. Ooh, the Democrats win. Big deal. It comes down to they just don't care, and we need to restore that sense that people have power, responsibility, freedom, duty. All of those things. Responsibility and duty being the two key issues. As Seinfeld would say, at this point, we're just rooting for laundry. Right. How did we get to a point in this country where in major media, whether it be MSNBC, Fox, CNN, who cares, all right, we can overtly have a conversation about said candidate is using said issues to manipulate it? Much like, the same kind of conversation we would talk about how the Red Sox just picked up a new left-hander, and at the same time allow ourselves to be manipulated by said party. I mean, it's laid out for us in the news every day. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's almost like a cookie-cutter approach. You fill in the blank. You have an issue. I mean, I'm sure that the polling and the people that get paid, politics is being marketed. That's really all it is. And as long as people treat it like a sports event, or, who cares who won the game last night, as long as it was a decent game. I mean, if they want to think like that, I think they're shirking their responsibility. But I think that it's a reality based on what they're presented as facts. I don't think people are stupid. I think people are pretty astute in terms of determining that they have no role in the game. It's like they're going there as a spectator, and politics shouldn't be a spectator sport. It should be a complete participatory sport. It's almost like worldwide wrestling. Each candidate adopts a role. Right. And that role is there on stage for that role. Right. Regardless of what they may think individually, their role, their models, their issues are crafted towards Well, they have to carry
response.
water for the people that are funding them. That's the bottom line. I mean, they're going to get up there and they're going to say the things that people want to hear that are giving them the money. I mean, it's the business of politics. It's whatever. I mean, is it right? Well, I guess if the people are willing to accept it, it's their problem. I don't believe that, and I just don't believe that you have to crusade to get people to do something that they should be doing. I think people, given an opportunity to participate, will. I firmly believe that. A friend of the show, someone obviously I work very closely with, who's on leave of absence now, Tony Jones, running for lieutenant governor, carrying forward, if you will, the Cool Moose mantra. I think Tony's doing a great job. It's not only does he focus on the almost silly nature of the lieutenant governorship, but Tony, and I think sometimes lost in that message, is the notion that Tony is what
libertarians would call a voluntarist.
Mm-hmm.
Tony openly advocates for people taking voluntary positions in government, whether it be the local town committee.
And he's done that.
And local commission. He's walked that walk. He
Yeah.
continues to walk that walk.
Yes, I agree.
Every day he does something for the community.
Right.
And so in response to some would theorize that confiscatory taxes, high health care costs, a difficult economy have driven people into a bunker mentality where they're allowed to, essentially abdicate that type of day-to-day responsibility. Some would even argue that that condition has been created so that people would abdicate that responsibility.
Yeah, I don't know whether I fully agree, but I think I could at least accept the argument on that. Yeah,
Right.
Those premises are not overly false.
So how then do you in the couple minutes before our break, how then, and this is obviously a focal part of your campaign. You're I love your blog.
Thank
You every day you bring up a salient issue, not an issue per se. Focus on this budget line item, but the underlying philosophy behind that item. How do you wake people up in this market? How do you shake them? How do you give them that sort of come to Jesus moment?
I think my only message has to be that if I were to be successful in this campaign, we can demonstrate the government is by the people rather than by special interests. If I get into office, and again we go back to your taboo topic of fundraising, but I'm not raising any money to do this. None. I'm not asking for any campaign contributions. If I get into office, the only agenda I am carrying with me is the business of the people. And I think that in and of itself is a powerful message to the people themselves, because if they can, or if they, maybe they don't even want to wake up into a world of reality, but they're getting bashed by the high health care costs. They're getting bashed by the fact that they don't have jobs. They're getting bashed all around. And the only people that are really successful in the economy are the people that are in banking and the pharmaceutical companies. And I mean, so their interests are well protected up in the General Assembly. They're looking at that. The people have no candidates, but they have few candidates that really have their interests in mind. And I think that they have to unite. And if they don't unite, then, as I always say, my grandmother would tell me, you burn your ass, you sit on blisters, and that's about it.
As opposed to stepping on the foot today that's connected to the butt you'll have to kiss tomorrow
Right.
way at Rhode Island politics?
That's true. I mean, it's really true. It may not just be Rhode Island politics. It's everywhere in politics, because the people have lost sight that they loaned power to the government. They really believe. I go out there and I find it fascinating, because people think that government gives them rights and gives them powers, and it's just the opposite.
Right. The if you go back to the founding fathers, the notion of a participatory democracy was one that, as we like to say here, people would help others' people's lives, not get one. The notion that someone would come from the business community after years of experience and lend those talents to the government as a form of participatory payback, if you will.
Right.
And then, after a certain period of time, recede into the background, perhaps to emerge again in a few years, but have that rotating cast, that experience set, that knowledge be able to be shared amongst the community, so that it was truly a collaborative effort.
I agree. That's how we roll. You're not going to get an argument on that one.
Doesn't seem like it's happening much.
It's not. I mean, the design may be a little outmoded, and that may be a problem. But I think what has happened is politics has become a business, because people have realized that you can manipulate it quite easily if you control certain aspects of the media, and if you have money, and if you control power. I mean, it was. I think the movement started clearly, probably in the late 50s.
Now, back to the Coalition on AM 790 Talk and Business. Join in the conversation at 437-5000 or 888-345-0790.
And we're back. Coalition on Talk Radio on AM 790, square in the square since 2013. You can find us on coalitionradio.us. This show will be podcast there. You can find us on Facebook.com, the Coalition Radio, or on the mighty Twitter at Coalition_Radio. I am your host, the P.O. Taxpayer. If you're listening to us for the first time, we're on our new Sunday morning time slot here at 10 a.m. on AM 790, your source for news and business and the Yankees and everything that matters. We talked earlier about the ground rules of the coalition. Again, outrage porn-free zone, issues dominating. The guest is the star and the focus of the entire conversation. I'm welcoming back our guest, Renaissance man Bob Healy, moderate party candidate for governor. When we spent a lot of time philosophically, now I want to get to some real nitty-gritty issues, including at the end of the show our lightning round, where we put you on the spot. Ooh, yeah. We don't have the game show music yet. We're working on that.
What do I win?
Our endorsement. I was intrigued by one of your answers to the was it the Providence Chamber of Commerce questionnaire? Or was it the Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce questionnaire?
Providence.
They were discussing the quote-unquote, and if you could see me, I'd be doing the big air quotes, marketing campaigns by the Rhode Island Commerce Corporation.
Yes.
You took a rather different approach. I think the knee-jerk response would have been,
I support these fully.
Exactly. You think, however, that there should be some level, I don't know, of success to market.
If you don't have
Lucy, explain.
Yeah, if you don't have anything to market, what are you going to go out there and talk about? Hey, we're last in business friendliness, but come to us anyway. Huh?
How does that work?
I mean, really. So that's what I'm saying. I say if you have something to market, it's great. Do it. But you got to make the changes, and you got to have the successes before you go out and tout them.
Have something to pitch to people. Here, in the words of the immortal, here, have a donut.
Yeah.
Have a muffin.
With the Chicago Cubs.
Astonishing fact, maybe not known to many. The RI Commerce Corporation, formerly known as the Economic Development Commission, continues to issue loans. Now,
yes.
At a much smaller scale.
Yes.
But in this case, they continue to loan money to early-stage companies. And what's frightening is they're paid by a surcharge, a tiny surcharge, on our already confiscatory electoral bills. And the repayment terms are interesting. There was a company out there, and I'm sure they're fine people, but they have invented a new way to adhere solar panels to roofs. Now, if anyone who's got a pulse and follows politics knows that solar panels at this point are possibly the most spectacular business failure since the Boston Market chicken outfit came out in the 80s. The repayment terms rely on positive cash flow, not on a term, not on a standard, not on. In other words, if at some point my understanding is if they make 6 months of consecutive cash flow, then they have to start paying the loan back, and I believe it's about $300,000. So again, it's not anywhere near the scope of as what we call here 38 special, but at the same token, they continue to pick winners and losers. I've got this mental image of them calling 5.5 months into it. We had a bad month this month. Sorry, but in 6 months we'll be back to repay. What's your approach to economic development? Should this be going on?
Well, I think that we have to rethink the way we do that, and I'm formulating because we're really trying to think of a novel way of approaching this, or not necessarily completely novel, but there are other programs out there that I think are more functional and reliant on the state. Our problem in Rhode Island is those types of things end up being, Willie Sutton used to say when they asked him why he robbed banks, is because that's where the money is. And those programs are really just putting money into a circulation that is really almost like for special interest groups. I'm trying to formulate it almost. Even it's been sitting in my head for way too long. But I think what we have to do is get the government out of this kind of business. I mean, the solar industry, I have no real problem with the solar industry. I just wonder, subsidizing it, we're picking a winner in this business. I think that, yeah, I mean, I've seen fairly decent operations, and